Recording. And Quinn reminded us that at the end of the meeting, the recording goes for a few seconds, like 15, 20. So be careful what you say right after.
Don't say anything bad.
All right. And I did let Quinn know I have to leave right at 8. So for those who just walked in, we're going to crank it.
Good.
All right. We'll call the meeting to order. And first order of business are the approval of previous meeting minutes. Bill has indicated he emailed the May minutes late last night or early this morning, however we want to look at it. There used to be a time when I'd still be up, but I did not see that.
On the back side or something.
Did anybody get a chance to review the May minutes? Okay.
I didn't.
All right.
Well, thanks.
We will save those for next meeting then, Bill. Thank you for cranking those out. And we'll all double check our emails to make sure
I'll
we
check
got
them
them.
too.
There's something
All
there.
right.
Make sure I got the right address.
Okay. August minutes were attached to the agenda.
On the back side.
Oh, did I pass
The
one set of
agenda.
minutes? Sorry.
Motion to approve.
And weird.
So moved.
Second. Does that all the time?
Oh, David.
Moved.
Joe and Dave and Mark.
Mark.
There. All right,
You guys look
thank
so
you.
much alike, it's hard to tell you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, I have one item that's not on the agenda. It's more informational than anything. We have two people whose terms end at the end of December, and so they would need to contact, I guess, Quinn, and let her know that.
We've reached out to everybody that's
And you
renewing.
have? Okay, because it would be Judy and Kevin are the two that are rolling off. And then in January, we would be looking to appoint officers for the coming year. So that's just informational. All right, anyone have any other new business? Seeing none, we'll move on to old business. Sandusky Wheels Park. Aaron.
Yes, thank you. So we're in the design phase of that project, and they're doing a detailed cost estimate and the construction documentation. It's still on track to go for permission to bid to City Commission the end of January, maybe the first meeting in February. So you'll see that advertisement go out around that time.
Okay. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to Battery Park.
Battery Park is still in their due diligence phase. After they have gotten the preliminary plan approved, they still have a number of months before the final development plan would be due to Planning Commission. So my understanding is they're working on their financial modeling and the detailed architectural design things that they would need to be doing in this phase. We have regular conversations with them, but no big updates.
Okay.
Through the chair, if I could, on the PUD, are they looking at giving a final date? Has that been set, or are we still working on an open date for that?
Yeah, there's not been a date set. I can get back to you on what the final date would be from the approval, because there's a specific count that our code gives, and that would be their deadline per our code, but we don't have any other deadline set.
The only reason I ask that is a lot of preliminary stuff many times is just that preliminary and can change pretty much in some ways or a lot of ways before the final. So knowing when the final is might be helpful to get a final feel for what it's going to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. And per our code of the PUD process, the final cannot significantly differ from what was approved in the preliminary.
Perfect, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, any other questions on Battery Park? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the Brownfields Assessment Grant update.
So there's been two Phase 1 assessments completed among that project. One is on the Jackson Street parking lot that we're expecting development on, and one was for the former Osborne School that we have facilitated a development proposal for.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, David.
Maybe I'm still waking up, but what's the state, they're doing brownfield assessments to those two properties. What's the status of, I mean, they need to be done at a certain time, or?
We have received those reports. They're under review. I'm not managing that, so I haven't given them detailed review, but they're under staff review right now.
Okay.
So the Jackson Street parking lot would be for the new hotel, et cetera, development, correct? Okay. All right. Any other questions regarding the brownfield? All right. Columbus Avenue streetscape.
The Columbus Avenue Streetscape project is almost complete in design. We are in our second round of final tracing design documentation for that project. We expect to bring it to City Commission for permission to bid at the second meeting in January. And that would give, we would hope to get a contractor in line by March. It would give them a few months during our busy season of being able to compile the resources they might need, but we wouldn't allow any construction until Labor Day, maybe some select construction in the month of August of 2024, but we would expect the major construction to start after Labor Day of 2024.
Okay, any questions on the Columbus Avenue streetscape? What's the time frame expected for that project?
So we'd like them to do all of it in the quietest times of year for the city. So from Labor Day 2024 with a completion date of April 30th, 2025.
Oh, okay, so
That we
there would be
expect
no
that they would
summer.
need a phase in the fall and then a phase in the spring.
Okay. All right,
And once we get a contractor in line, we'll have a really detailed phasing plan and how they want to approach the project and all the order that they want to go through.
okay.
Through the chair, if I could.
Yes.
One of the concerns was always parking. Is there a significant loss in parking spaces or a significant gain? I'm not sure on that one.
The project itself is neutral. There's parking spaces shifting because we're adding a significant number of spaces on the block between Washington and Adams. So there will be more spaces from that walkability from that block. The first two blocks will reduce in spaces because we're flipping from angled parking to parallel parking. What we gain in that is a significant gain in pedestrian space and outdoor dining space. So we're confident that we still have plenty of parking, but it will shift some parking.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions. All right. Any other questions? Thank you. All right. Jackson parking lot redevelopment.
On that project, we're still in the MOU timeframe with the developer, so they are doing their due diligence and financial modeling. So we're in communication with them and looking forward to reviewing their pro forma soon.
Bill?
In that project, what sort of parking numbers are we looking at in the garage with that facility?
I think that's one of the biggest questions that's looming out there right now. We've promised to at least replace the public spaces that exist today, and then the garage has to park the hotel and whatever uses they're going to plan for the site. But my understanding of structured parking is it used to be about $20,000 a space, but with the inflation that's happened, it's closer to $30,000, $40,000 per parking space. So they get real expensive real quick. So refining that exact number we need is going to be critical to that project feasibility.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes.
One concern I would have with that is with having the motel hotel aspect, a lot of times you have reserved parking for that. Right now, we have few reserved, but not that many. So I would look, if possible, for a net even to what it is today, rather than having a net loss because of reserved parking, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that's what my intention was to say, is that those public spaces, the same number of public spaces will be
Very good.
available for public parking, and then the hotel parking would have to be in addition to that.
Super, thank you.
David?
Could you refresh me about what the projected time frame for completion of that project? I mean, I know it hasn't started, it's hard to predict when it'll end, but how many rooms, kind of nutshell, again, the plan for that hotel complex?
That's a question. I don't have those numbers on the top of my head, at least what the initial vision was. I'd have to look that up and send it back to you. There is not any specific timeframe set for that. I mean, in my head, development takes like 4 years to, go in the ground. I don't know if that's realistic or what this timeline is going to look like. But hopefully we'll have more answers to that in the coming months.
And the reason it's kind of top of mind for me is happened to do the State Theater hard hat tour yesterday evening, and Chris Parthomar, I think, made the comment about how that was integral to the plan for the State Theater to achieve what it is planning to do with its enhanced secondary venue and so forth. And a crossover between that and the hotel, it sounded like there were some pretty developed plans from the State Theater's point of view, and I didn't really know where that bridge from the theater lands.
Yeah, my understanding, it's not my realm at all, but when you're planning those sort of shows, and the predictability is going to be on your side in any sort of project. So if they know they've got those beds there, that they're going to have dedicated people in town, then they can do better predicting of who they're booking and how many seats they expect to fill and that sort of thing. So it's all really inextricably linked, and I think I agree that we're all excited about the hotel. It's going to be a game changer downtown.
Okay. Other questions regarding the Jackson Street parking lot project in development?
Through you, Chair.
Mr. Harris.
I think it might have been 76 is the number that was proposed for the hotel, if I'm not mistaken. So
That sounds right around there at least.
Okay.
I know you got a lot of numbers going on in your head.
Thank you.
We all do. Thank you for that. Okay. Any other questions on the Jackson Street project? Okay. Any other old business that anyone has?
Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Harrington.
I do have a question on the development on the west end of the pathway along Edgewater and going down Monroe Street. Are we any further with that aspect, or?
Through the chairman,
Mr. Klein?
that portion, we're still waiting on one easement, and we're just waiting to hear back from US Subaki. They're still working through it. They're really busy right now with a bunch of other things, so I'm hoping maybe they slow down this winter. It's always good to have a manufacturing facility that's extremely busy, but it would be, I'm going to keep emailing them every other week or so to make sure that we're not falling behind.
Okay.
But we have everything else from the health department all the way down through Edgewater.
So this is the easement for what would be the west side of Edgewater along the park area?
Yes.
Okay. If you needed any assistance, let me know. Are you working with Tom there at this time?
Yes.
All right. I can help on that if you need it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. David?
And that raises the question, how are we doing on the east end of the pathway and out to Sports Force? And it seemed like last time we were waiting on an easement or two there to move forward in a significant way.
Through the chairman, I would say that we have, for the whole project, we still have many easements that are needed or properties that need acquired along First Street to connect from Cedar Point Drive back into the Cove District. And then we have a couple easements that are needed and a railroad that we need to continue negotiations with from Monroe up through Mills area where the bike path currently terminates on the west end from downtown. where it terminates. So we're still working through all those. Our priority is to get the bike path from Cedar Point Drive over to the landing, those two projects, and then get the landing started. All of that work from Cedar Point Drive up through the landing, including the park, started next year.
David?
It's been a long time since I thought about Cedar Point and the plans we saw where they have development at the end of the old landing strip and, you know, kayak rental and little sundry shops and such. Has any of that changed? I mean, it seems like the whole concept from my point of view or the public point of view has been mothballed for like 4 or 5 years now or something.
That area up there was not obtained by the city, so that's still retained by Cedar Fair. So there's a little landlocked parcel that they still own. I haven't heard of any plans. I'm guessing that our project, once we get the landing up and running, that might be a catalyst for somebody coming in and asking if they can do projects like that, whether it's Cedar Fair wanting to do it themselves or them hiring an outside company that might want to do that on their property. But that's still there. It's still an idea. But the kayak launch, that would be part of the park project, not their project. Theirs was buildings for coffee shops, breakfast nooks, little restaurants. There were 2 or 3 that could fit in the portion of the property that they retained.
But in terms of Cedar Point's evolving structure or whatever, that's had no impact as far as we know on what their plans are for that area?
For our project, the landing,
Well, for their project on their property at the end of that pathway. The
I
pathway
can't-
terminates in a private development sort of, and the private developer is,
I can't speak on their behalf. I have no idea how their plans may have changed or evolved over the last year or two. I haven't had any conversations with them on what they're planning on doing. I just want to make sure our project goes through.
gotcha.
It's reasonable.
But I will add to that, though, we are making sure that we add all the sewer, water, fiber, any other utilities up to that location. So it is an easy, quick move for them if they do want to build up there.
All right, any other questions on the pathway either end of the pathway, I guess we'd say? I do have a question, wetlands. I know that you'd given an update, Aaron, last meeting, still trying to identify sites for a potential second wetlands. Any updates there?
Yes, we're still in that site identification phase. We have narrowed it down to 3. All of them have complications. Nothing's ever straightforward. So of those 3, we're moving forward with looking at, putting together the matrix of which ones we like and don't like. We're working with ODNR, EPA, Bowling Green State University, Old Woman Creek, everybody that has interest in projects like that and has been involved in the algal blooms and any of the environmental conditions within Sandusky Bay in particular. We're working with them and making sure that we are also working with the property owners for the locations that we are aiming towards trying to possibly use for a site. And if we do, we're hoping to make a selection within the next 3-4 months, and then we can move forward with final design and permitting with an attempt to get a project completed over the winter of 24, 25. But depending on the site, we might not have to do it during the winter. That's one of the restrictions at the Cedar Point site.
All right, Bill?
Could you refresh our memories on what those 3 sites were?
Yeah, the first site would be expanding the current wetlands to the south. And that one has limited capacity just because it's shallow there. The second one would be what's called Turning Point Island, which is the breakwater just past the Shelby Street boat ramp where the barges come in and go around it to leave for the coal docks, so that little island there. Problem there is we have a sewer outfall. That's where our main sewer discharge is. That's everybody's ideal location, but I don't know if we can extend our sewer. That would be something with EPA and everybody else in different divisions. It's very complicated, and it doesn't provide an environmental benefit, which is supposed to be the catalyst for that project. The last site would be on the far west end of the city. The railroad kind of is along the waterfront. There's actually a sliver of land that the railroad doesn't own along the waterfront, and it's only a couple feet, but they own it farther to the west, but there's a piece farther to the east that's owned by US Subaki. So we're trying to work with them to see if that's an option over there.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Aaron, just for information purposes, when I was at Sandusky International, I do know that that island was a major breeding ground for a protected form of seagull. So if you expand that, you may have other things from ODNR that you'd have to work with on that, just for your knowledge.
Yeah, through the chair, I think those seagulls may have been kicked out by the cormorants. So
Fair enough.
that's one of my huge concerns is no matter what we do over there, the invasive species that are there would be very, very difficult for us to maintain and evict by ourselves. So once they've established it as theirs, it's tough to push them out. So being that we would have a 10-year maintenance requirement for this project to eliminate invasives or push out the invasives, that would be very difficult to do if they've already established it as their home. But thank you for that. I know that.
Way ahead of me, thank you.
Yeah. We just need to find a natural
Predator.
predator for the cormorants.
We need some foxes, little foxes.
Little foxes.
Yeah, just build a bridge out there to it.
I think we've got some attorneys here. We can evict them, right?
All right, very good. Any other old business that anyone has? Questions? All right, there are no community members here. Bill?
Just a question on our meeting schedule. I know at one point of the game it had been discussed that we possibly meet quarterly rather than monthly, and with the way that our cancellations have increased, I'm just wondering if that should be brought to the table for discussion.
Certainly can discuss it. I don't know that there's anything in the requirement for the committee to meet monthly. So, and that's something that we could
Just a
ponder and
Just a
maybe,
suggestion to consider. I don't know what staff feels about the meeting schedule as we have it. It just seems we get more cancellations than we have
Right.
meetings.
Mr. Chair.
yes, Mark?
For the purpose of time, with your time limit on this, may I suggest that we table that till next meeting?
I was going to
Put it
suggest
on the
that's a
agenda.
good thing to think over for the next month and then have it as an agenda item in January.
Good thing to bring up, Bill.
You know, with what we've had, it's been, we probably wouldn't miss anything, but as these projects come to fruition or get closer to timeframe, we may need to have them more often, but I think we could adjust it as needed as we go forward. But if we know we're going to have them quarterly, then we can set it up and then,
Or bi-monthly.
or bi-monthly, whatever the case might be. Yeah.
Mr.
You know-
Chairman,
Yes.
just from the perspective of the projects I tend to update you on, I know that they typically are multi-month projects that take multi-months to then go moving into construction or come to fruition. So it's often that I don't have a significant update for you every month. So quarterly is probably appropriate for what I update you on. And I don't know if there's a way that if you did set them that way, then you could make a motion to have a meeting next month if we know we're going to have updates for you or something like
Right.
that. Just to think about. I know you don't want to make a decision today. I
Right,
just
no,
thought I would
and that's
offer
kind of,
that.
that's helpful to know from your perspective. So thank you for
Mr.
that
Chair.
input.
Selfishly,
I enjoy, there are so many projects that are going on in the city right now. I mean, really good projects. I enjoy and I can go back to report, I enjoy the monthly, and I can go back and I can report to the county commissioners as to what's going on. It's extremely helpful from my standpoint to meet monthly.
All right.
I know I'm swimming upstream on this one, but
No, that's fine. We need to have that input so that we can make an informed
I
decision.
find it very helpful.
Thank you so much. All right. So we'll ponder that. And again, we need to be thinking about officers next month. So for those who want to volunteer, don't be hesitant to jump forward and let us know.
Tim, with wanting to report, could maybe do the minutes too at the same time. Just thinking.
I won't be staying up until 2:00 in the morning.
And then the other thing that
I fell asleep and finished.
I guess the other thing is, and I don't know how locked in we are to a 7:30 a.m. start time. If another time, moving it back a half hour, I know some of us folks now that are retired, we get in a more relaxed schedule. I know Mr. King has business and the staff has business, so again, input on time of the meeting would probably be helpful as well.
Very good.
Okay? All right.
Move to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn from Mr. Harrington. Is there a second?
Second,
Mr. King, we're adjourned. Thank you.
1 minute to spare, Carl.
Hey, I'm in good shape. It's hard for me to not be in trouble, but you guys help me.
Good, how are you?
Good.
I'm sorry, I had to do these last.
No. I don't rank necessary, but.
Ready? Come back to center.
Is that our mentioned you go
I'm sorry. You look like an attorney, I'm an attorney, so we can recognize each other.
It's nice
Please
to hear
introduce
what's
yourself so
going
I can
on.
have your name
What I
on
should
that.
have added